Hi, you guys. It's Super Goddess Chaotic, and I just wanted to come to you guys with a video about Yoruba empire, such as the Oyo Empire, the Benin Empire, pre-colonization, and then the making of Nigeria after colonization of Africans and others, actually, by some very evil people that were so insecure, so miserable, so frustrated with their position in life that they had to go and be brutal to a peaceful to a peaceful, type of people. But anyways, I wanted to highlight this research, this history, because kind of want the Euro people to get on one accord. There's a lot of, you know, miscommunication and, you know, misspoken narratives. So maybe if we just put all of the known history in one place, maybe we can have a discord or discussion of what are the facts and what may not be so factual and what may need to be combed through by, you know, a board of, several different people that represent those that are of the Yoruba background, the Yoruba diaspora, those that, have DNA from the Yoruba lineage. Well, you know what I mean. I have my liners on. But yeah, so let's get into it. Boom, boom, boom. So let me see. I want this to kind of speak out loud. Okay, here goes. Located West Africa, primarily Nigeria, also Benin and Togo. Population 5.3 million. Language Yoruba. Religion religion Islam, Christianity. One introduction. The Yoruba are one of the largest African ethnic groups south of the Sahara Desert. They are, in fact, not a single group, but rather a collection of diverse people bound together by a common language, history, and culture. Within Nigeria, the Yoruba dominate the western part of the country. Yoruba mythology holds that all Yoruba people descended from a hero called Otua or Utujuwa. Today there are over 50 individuals who claim kingship as descendants of Otua. During the 4th century, the slave trade, Yoruba territory was known as the Slave Coast. Uncounted numbers of Yoruba were carried to the Americas. Their descendants preserved Yoruba traditions. In several parts of the Caribbean and South America, Yoruba religion has been combined with Christianity. In 1893, the Yoruba kingdoms in Nigeria became part of the Protectorate of Great Britain. Until 1960, Nigeria was a British colony and the Yoruba were British subjects. On October 1st, 1960, Nigeria became an independent nation structured as a federation of states. Two locations. The Yoruba homeland, located in West Africa. It stretches from a savanna, grassland, region in the north to a region of tropical rainforests in the south. Most Yoruba live in Nigeria. However, there are also some scattered groups in Benin and Togo, small countries to the west of Nigeria. The occupations and living conditions of the Yoruba in the north and south differ sharply. Current census figure, difficult to obtain. The Yoruba population is estimated to be 5.3 million. 3 language. The Yoruba language belongs to the Congo-Kordofanian language family. Yoruba has many dialects, but its speakers can all understand each other. Yoruba is a tonal language. The same combination of vowels and consonants has different meanings depending on the pitch of the vowels, whether they are pronounced with a high voice or a low voice. For example, the same word, arrow, can mean symbol, indigo dot, lamentation, and granary, depending on intonation. Paleo is hello, Babo and I is how are you, and Dada and I is fine, thank you. Or folklore. According to a Yoruba ancient myth, the deities, gods, originally lived in the sky with only water below them. Uluru, the sky god, gave to Horus Hala, the god of blindness, a chain, a bit of earth in a snail shell, and a 5-toed chicken. He told Horus Hala to come down and create the earth. Horus Hala approached the gate of heaven. He saw some deities having a party and he stopped to greet them. They offered him palm wine. He drank too much and fell asleep. Otua, his younger brother, saw Horus Hala sleeping. He took the materials and went to the edge of heaven, accompanied by Chameleon. He let down the chain and they climbed down it. Otua threw the piece of earth on the water and placed the 5-toed chicken upon it. The chicken began to spread the earth, spreading it in all directions. After Chameleon had tested the firmness of the earth, Otua stepped down. A sacred grove is there today. What religion? As many as 20% of the Yoruba still practice the traditional religions of their ancestors. The practice of traditional religion varies from community to community. For example, a deity, god, may be male in one village and female in another. Yoruba traditional religion holds that there is one supreme being and hundreds of Orisha, or minor deities. The worshippers of a deity are referred to as his children. There are 3 gods available to all. Uluru, sky god, is the high god, the creator. One may call on him with prayers or by pouring water on colon as on the ground. Eshim, also called Legba by some, is the divine messenger who delivers shrine. Everyone prays frequently to this deity. Ifa is the god of divination, who interprets the wishes of Uluru to mankind. Believers in the Yoruba religion turn to Ifa in times of trouble. Another god, Ogun, god of war, the hunt, and metalworking, is considered one of the most important. In Yoruba courts, people who follow traditional rules testimony by kissing a machete sacred to Ogun.
Okay, okay. Let's see.
The Yoruba language belongs to the Congo Kordofan language family. Yoruba has many dialects, but its speakers can all understand each other. Yoruba is a tonal language. The same combination of vowels and consonants has different. According to a Yoruba ancient myth, the deities, gods, originally lived in the sky with only water below them. Uluru, the sky god, gave to Horus, the god of whiteness, a chain, a bit of earth in a snail shell, and a five-toed chicken. He told Horus Hala to go down and create the earth. Horus Hala approached the gate of heaven. He saw some deities having a party and he stopped to greet them. They offered him palm wine and he drank too much and fell asleep. Odua, his younger brother, saw Horus Hala sleeping. He took the materials and went to the edge of heaven, accompanied by Chameleon. He let down the chain and they climbed down it. Odua threw the piece of earth on the weir and placed the five-toed chicken upon it. The chicken began to scorch the earth, spreading it in all directions. After Chameleon had tested the firmness of the earth, Odua stepped down. A sacred grove is there today. 5. Religion. As many as 20% of the Yoruba still practice the traditional religions of their ancestors. The practice of traditional religion varies from community to community. For example, the god may be male in one village and female in another. Yoruba traditional religion holds that there is one supreme being and hundreds of orisha, or minor deities. The worshippers of a deity are referred to as his children. There are three gods level to all. Uluru, that god, is the high god, the creator. One may call on him with prayers or by pouring water on pollen nuts on the ground. Eshu, also called Legba by some, is the divine messenger who delivers sacrifices to Uluru after they are placed in his shrine. Everyone prays frequently to this deity. Ifa is the god of divination, who interprets the wishes of Uluru to mankind. Believed in the Yoruba religion turn to Ifa in times of trouble. Another god, Ogun, god of war, the hunt, and metalworking, is considered one of the most important. In Yoruba courts, people who follow traditional beliefs swear to give truthful testimony by kissing a machete sacred to Ogun. Shango, also Sango Benzigo, is the deity that creates thunder. The Yoruba believe that when thunder and lightning strike, Shango has thrown a thunderstone to earth. After a thunderstorm, Yoruba religious leaders search the ground for the thunderstone, which is believed to have special powers. The stones are housed in shrines dedicated to Shango. Shango has 4 wives, each representing a river in Nigeria. The Yoruba who practice the religious are divided about evenly between Muslims, followers of Islam, and Christians. Nearly all Yoruba still observe annual festivals and other traditional religious practices. 6 major holidays. Local festivals are usually dedicated to individual deities. Yoruba may also celebrate the following holidays, depending on whether they are Christians or Muslims: New Year's Day, January, Eid al-Adha, Feast of Sacrifice, June or July, Easter, March or April, Maulid an-Nabi, Muhammad's birthday, Ramadan, followed by a 3-day feast, Nigerian Independence Day, October, Eid al-Fitr, Christmas, December. 7th Rite of Passage. A newborn infant is filled with water to make it cry. No word may be spoken until the infant cries. Also, no one younger than the mother should be present at the birth. The infant then is taken to the backyard. The umbilical cord is bound tightly with thread and then cut. The placenta is buried in the backyard. On the placenta burial spot, the child is bathed with a loofah sponge and rubbed with palm oil. The child is held by the feet and given 3 shakes to make it strong and brave. After a specified number of days, a naming ceremony is held. Relatives attend and bring small amounts of money. Male and female circumcision are usually performed in the first month. Marriage or ring. A man must negotiate with the girl's father. If he is approved, he must bring the family a payment called a bride bill, paid in 3 installments. Wedding ceremonies begin at the bride's house after dark. There is a feast to which the groom contributes yams. The bride then is taken to the groom's house. There she is washed from foot to knee with an herbal mixture meant to bring her many children. For the first 8 days after marriage, she divides her time between her husband's and in her parents' compounds. On the 9th day, she moves to her husband's home. Burials are performed by adult men who are not close relatives but belong to the clan of the deceased. The grave is dug in the floor of the room where the deceased lived. After the burial, there is a period of feasting. Many of the rituals associated with burial are intended to ensure that the deceased will be reborn again. 8. Relationships. Kinship is the most important relationship for the Yorubas. Best friends are very important as well. A best friend is referred to as friend not seen on sleep. This means that one does not go to sleep without having seen his best friend. When approaching death, a Yoruba shares his last wishes with his best friend. Also important are that grow out of childhood associations. When a group of young friends starts spending time together, they form a club. They choose a name and invite an older man and woman to serve as advisors. The clubs continue through adulthood. They hold monthly meetings, with the members serving as hosts in turn. 9. Living conditions. Traditional compound. Which house clans in your villages are made up of rectangular courtyards, each with a single entrance? Around each courtyard is an open or a partly enclosed porch. Here the women sit, weave, and cook. Behind this are the rooms of eagles. Today the old compounds are rapidly being replaced by modern bungalows made of cement planks with irrigated iron roofs. Most Yoruba towns, even small ones, have adequate basic services, including electricity, running water, and paved roads. 10th family life. Every Yoruba is born into a clan whose members are descended from a common ancestor. Descent is patrilineal. Both sons and daughters are born into the clan of their father. Clan members live in a large residential area called the compound. The males are born, marry, and buried in it. Females live in the compound of their birth until they marry. Then they go to live with their husbands. The eldest male, or male, is the head of the compound. A husband is responsible for settling quarrels within his own family. However, if he is unsuccessful or if an argument involves members of two different families, it is referred to the bail. Within the compound, the immediate family consists of a man, his wives, and their children. The Yoruba practice polygyny, having more than one wife. Each wife and her children are considered a subfamily. They have a separate room within the husbands and they share possessions. Each mother cooks for her own children only. A man is expected to treat each wife equally. However, wives compete to gain additional favors for their own children. The father is strict and distant. Often, he sees little of his children. When they are young, children of co-wives play together. However, as they grow older, they usually grow apart because of quarrels over possessions. 11. Clothing. Western style dress, worn in urban areas. Traditional clothing is still worn on important occasions and in rural areas. It is very colorful and elaborate. Traditional fabrics were block printed with geometric designs. Women wear a head tie made of a rectangular piece of fabric. They carry babies or young children on their backs by tying another rectangular cloth around their waist. A third cloth may be worn over the shoulder as a shawl over a fitting, short-sleeved blouse. A larger cloth serves as a wraparound skirt. Recipe. Pounded yam. Ingredients. Choose one of these. 3 or 4 white yams, preferably round and fat. 3 or 4 orange yams. 1 bunch plantains. 1 bunch green, unripe, bananas. Directions. Unpeel the vegetable and cut into chunks or place the pieces into a pot and cover with water. Cover the pot until the water boils. Cook until the yams, plantains or green bananas can be pierced easily with a fork. 3 drain 1 or 2 pieces into a large mortar and pestle. Pound the pieces until a mass is formed that pulls away from the sides of the mortar. This cannot be done with an electric mixer, because the pounded yams will be very stiff. Fufu is served with soups and stews at main meals. Diners pinch off a piece of fufu, make an indentation in it, and use it as a spoon to scoop up a mouthful of the main dish. Chicken and okra soup. Ingredients. 6 to 10 chicken legs or wings. 1 small onion, chopped. 18 large okra, chopped. 1 teaspoon dry ground red pepper. 1½ ounces, 40 grams, dry crayfish, ground. 2 medium fresh tomatoes. 2 teaspoons tomato paste. Pinch of salt. 1/2 teaspoon potash. Directions. 1 place the chicken pot with salt and pepper. Cover with water and boil until tender. Drain, reserving broth for next step. Remove meat from bones and cut into bite-sized chunks. 2 combine over with broth and remaining ingredients. Boil for 5 minutes. Add chicken and continue to cook for 5 minutes more. Serve with fufu. Men wear tailored cloth, gowns, and trousers. One popular type of gown is trimmed like a poncho. It reaches to the fingertips, but is worn folded back on the shoulders. Trousers are usually very loose and baggy. All the cloth for traditional clothing is hand woven. Often it is elaborately embroidered. 12. Food. The Yoruba diet consists of starchy tubers, grains, and plantains. These are supplemented by vegetable oils, wild and cultivated fruits and vegetables, meat, and fish. The daily family diet relies on cassava, taro, maize, beans, and plantains. One of the most popular foods is fufu, or fufu, similar to a dumpling, but made of cassava, white yams. Rice and yams are eaten on special occasions. The recipes are very popular and are usually served together. 13. Education. Since attaining independence, 1960, Nigeria has set a high priority on education. Universal primary education has become the norm in southern Nigeria, where the Yoruba live. Secondary school, high school, education also became common. The first university in Nigeria was located in a Yoruba city. Originally called University College, it is now known as the University of Ibadan. The majority of students at Ibadan are Yoruba. 14. Cultural heritage. The Yoruba oral tradition includes praise poems, tongue twisters, hundreds of prose narratives and riddles, and thousands of proverbs. Yoruba music includes songs of ridicule and praise, as well as lullabies, religious songs, war songs, and work songs. These usually follow a call and response pattern between a leader and chorus. Rhythm is provided by drums, iron gongs, cymbals, rattles, and hand clapping. Other instruments include long brass trumpets, ivory trumpets, whistles, stringed instruments, and metallophones. Perhaps the most interesting musical instrument is the talking drum. The talking drum features an hourglass shape with laces that can be squeezed to tighten the goatskin head, altering the drum's pitch. 15. Employment. About 75% of the Yoruba men are farmers. producing food crops for their domestic needs. Farming is considered men's work. Clearing or hoeing fields is done only by men. Wives help their husbands plant yams and harvest corn, beans, and cotton. They also help at the market, selling farm produce. Some Yoruba have large cocoa farms worked by hired labor. The Yoruba in Georgia. Huge markets with over 1,000 sellers are common. Trade in foodstuffs and cloth is confined to women. Meat selling and produce buying are the province. The new generation is moving away from farming, and its members are looking for white-collar jobs. 16 sports. Although there are few sports, Yoruba, like other Nigerians, in some areas participate in wrestling and soccer. 17 recreation. Traditional entertainment includes rituals, dancing, and music making. Modern forms of entertainment include watching television and going to movies and discos. Most households own television sets. The more religious households prohibit family members, especially women, from going to see films. Among urban teenagers, American youth culture is popular. Most young people listen to rap and rock music from the USAO. A board game is popular among people of all ages. The Mankala game, a type of game popular in West Africa, that is played on a board with two rows of indentations or wells that are filled with small seeds or stones. 18 crafts and arts. Crafts include weaving, embroidery, pottery making, wood carving, leather and bead working, and metal working. Both men and women work using different types of looms. Cloth is woven from wild silk and from locally grown cotton. Men also do embroidery, particularly on men's gowns and caps, and work as tailors and dressmakers. Floor mats and mat storage beds are also made by men. Women are the potters. In addition to palm oil lamps, they make over 20 kinds of pots and dishes for cooking, eating, and carrying and storing liquids. Wood carvers, all are men, carve masks and figurines as well as mortars, pestles, and bowls. Some Yoruba wood carvers also work in bone, ivory, and stone. Blacksmiths work both in iron and brass to create both useful and decorative objects. 19 social problems. There are vast differences in wealth among Yoruba of different social classes. Many urban occupations do not provide adequate wages to support a family. Nigeria's human rights record is poor. The Yoruba, Olisa Bakobi, led a group of lawyers that founded the Human Rights Group, the Civil Liberties Organization, CLO. The crime rate in Nigeria is high, particularly in Lagos, Ibadan, Abeokuta, and other urban areas. More than half the offenses are property crimes. Drug-related crime is a major problem. Young people are using both marijuana and cocaine in increasing numbers. 20 bibliography. Bascom, William. The Yoruba of Southwestern Nigeria. Prospect Heights, Hill, Waveland Press, 1984. Hetfield, James. The Yoruba of West Africa. New York, Rosen Publishing Group, 1996. Kovlo, Philip. Yoruba language, The Flowering of Genius. Kingdoms of Africa. New York, Chelsea House, 1996. Websites. World Travel Guide. Online available http URL. 1998. Read more, http URL. Dash. From http URL. Oyo, Greek kingdom in present-day Nigeria, was founded in the 1300s. Established by Moravian of the Yoruba people of West Africa, Oyo quickly grew to become one of the most powerful states in the Yoruba-speaking region. From its capital city at Oyo, this weak state in the early 1500s, had by 1550 conquered two neighboring kingdoms, Ordu and Nu, to become the most dominant political entity in the region. Oyo was ruled by a king, who shared power with the Oyo Messi, aristocratic figures from each of Oyo City's 7 wards. The Oyo Messi were responsible for the selection of the elephant. They could also call for an elephant's suicide if he abused his power. Under elephant Obeloken, Oyo expanded southwestward to the Atlantic coast, and became part of the Atlantic Ocean trade system. Trading mainly in slaves, Oyo was able to acquire much-needed foreign exchange. During the 17th and 18th centuries, Oyo further expanded westward under Elephant Ojukbo, becoming a major empire, but never encompassing all Yoruba-speaking peoples. In response to attacks by the new people, Oyo became much more militarized, reorganizing its cavalry and infantry in the 16th century. The cavalry became the foundation of the army. Because of its Atlantic ports, Oyo was able to obtain horses for its cavalry from Europe and North Africa. Oyo's wealth and especially slave trading led to debates about the kingdom's future. Some elephants wanted to use the wealth to maintain the army and expand the geographic area of the state. Others wanted it for conspicuous consumption. These differences led to civil wars as rivals competed for control of the throne and of Oyo's vast treasury. This period of internal strife ended with Elephant Abiodun, 1754 to 1789, who reduced the power of the army. The downfall of the kingdom of Oyo was rather swift. Abiodun, concerned with little other than grand displays of royal wealth, allowed the Oyo army to disintegrate. This in turn allowed weaker peripheral states to break free of Oyo's control. One of those states, Dahomey, in the southwest, soon became a political and military rival. Oyo was also affected by the Fulani jihad waged by Muslims on its northern frontier. Eventually these provinces broke free as well. By the beginning of the 9th century, Oyo lost control of lucrative trade routes which had been a major source of state revenue. By 1837, the kingdom of Oyo had collapsed. Subjects. Global African History. Places. From http URL. The Benin Empire. Empire, 1440 to 1897, also known as the Kingdom of Benin, was a large pre-colonial African state of modern Nigeria. There is still an Oba, or king, although currently his rule is mainly symbolic. The first was Aweka I, who died in 1234. Was one of the oldest and most highly West Africa until it was annexed by the British Empire in 1897. The European imperial power of Great Britain ended the empire as a political polity in the late 19th century. The Oba opposed the colonialists and so removed his capital. However, after the death of the exiled 35th Oba, who had stubbornly resisted them, they allowed the 36th to return to Nigeria. Along with other traditional leaders in the post-colonial nation state of Nigeria, the Oba of Benin is recognized as a member of the House of Chiefs. He is the leader of the people. Within his own community, the Oba is symbolic of a long cultural and historical legacy which remains famous for its artifacts of bronze, ivory, and iron. Sadly, when the British set fire to the empire's capital, Benin City, in 1897, they also burned many valuable works of art. The colonialists were so sure of their royal right to rule others that they often took no notice, or did not hesitate to destroy, evidence that those whom they thought primitive had many skills and technologies of their own. Origin. According to one account, the original people and founders of the Benin Empire, the Benin, or Edo people, were initially ruled by the Ajises, kings of the sky. The city of Ibanu, later called Benin City, was founded in 1180 CE. About 36 Ajiso are accounted for as rulers of the empire. On the death of the last Ajiso, his son, and heir apparent Ppl-making was banished from Benin as a result of one of the queens changing the message from the oracle to the Ajiso. Ppl-making was a powerful warrior and well-loved prince. On leaving Benin, he traveled to the west of the present-day Nigeria to the land of the Yorubas. At that time, the Yoruba oracle said that their king will come out of the forest, and when Ppl-making arrived at Ife, he was received as a king. He changed his name to Odujuwa, meaning I did not misplace my royalty, and became the great Odujuwa of the Yoruba land. On the death of his father, the last Ajiso, a group of Benin chiefs led by Chief Olaha came to Ife, pleading with him to come back to Benin to ascend the throne. Odujuwa's reply was that a king cannot leave his kingdom, but he had 7 sons and would ask one of them to go back to Benin to rule as the next king. Orbian, the Ppl-making aka Odujuwa, agreed to go to Benin. He spent some years in Benin and came back to Ife after his wife gave birth to a son named Aweka. Aweka I became the first Oba of Benin. In 1440, Oba Iowari the Great, came to power and turned the city-state into an empire. Around 1470, he named the new state Edo. Golden Age. Pendant ivory mask, Court of Benin, 16th century, Metropolitan Museum of Art. The Oba had become on power within the region. Oba Iowari reigned 1440 until 1473. The first Golden Age Oba is credited with turning Benin City into a military fortress protected by moats and walls. It was from this bastion that he launched his military campaigns and began the expansion of the kingdom from the Edo-speaking heartlands. The lands of Ido, Owo, Akure all came under the central authority of the Edo Empire. At its maximum extent, the empire is claimed by the Edos to have extended from Onitsha in the east, through the forested southwestern region of Nigeria and into the present-day nation of Ghana. The Ga peoples of Ghana trace their ancestry to the ancient kingdom of Benin. The state developed an artistic culture, especially in its famous artifacts of bronze, iron, and ivory. These include bronze wall plaques and life-size bronze heads of the Obas of Benin. The most common artifact is based on Queen Idia, popularly called the Haystack mask. Most artwork was commissioned by or created for the palace, often for ceremonial use. Much art depicted the Oba in various costumes. The Guild of Artisans enjoyed royal patronage and occupied the designated district of the capital. When Europeans first saw this work, they supposed a non-African origin because they did not think Africans capable of such sophisticated work. The Portuguese, ancient Egyptians, even the lost tribe of Israel were credited instead of the Edo. 2. Government. The empire was ruled by a regent called the Oba. Today, the Oba of Benin is still very respected. He is the most revered traditional ruler in Nigeria, though his powers are largely ceremonial and religious. The capital of the Benin Empire was Edo, now known as Benin City in what is now southwestern Nigeria. People. The Benin Empire took its name from the Beni people who dominated the area. The ethnonym may possibly derive from groups in western Nigeria, where the term Ibanu means river, reflecting the warring nature of the Benis, or from central and north-central Nigeria, where the term Burman means arid or wild area. The city and its people are more properly called the Edo. Today, this population is found mostly in and around modern-day Benin City. It is from Portuguese explorers that we get the name the Benin Empire. However, the Beni name for the land and even the capital city was Edo. European contact. The first European travelers to reach Benin were Portuguese explorers in about 1485. A strong mercantile relationship developed, with the Portuguese trading tropical products, and increasingly slaves, for European goods and guns. In the early 16th century, the Oba sent an ambassador to Lisbon, and the King of Portugal sent Christian missionaries to Benin. Some residents of Benin could still speak a pidgin Portuguese in the late 19th century. The first English expedition to Benin was in 1553. Visitors in the 16th and 17th centuries brought back to Europe tales of the Great Benin, a fabulous city of noble buildings, ruled over by a powerful king. A significant trade soon grew up between England and Benin based on the export of ivory, palm oil, and pepper. Trade consisted of 20% ivory, 30% slaves, and 50% other things. Decline. The sketch of the city, 1897, the year it was burned by the British. The city of an empire, being declined after 1700, but revived in the 19th century with the development of the trade in palm oil, enslaved captives, and textiles. Benin grew increasingly rich during the 16th and 17th centuries on account of the slave trade with Europe. Slaves from enemy states of the interior were sold and carried to the Americas in Dutch and Portuguese ships. The bind of Benin's shores came to be known as the Slave Coast. Benin resisted such protectorate treaty with Great Britain through most of the 1880s and 1890s. However, after the slaying of 8 British representatives in Benin territory, a punitive expedition was launched in 1897, in which a British force, under the command of Admiral Sir Harry Watson, conquered and burned the city, destroying much of the country's treasured art and dispersing nearly all that remained. The portrait figures, busts, and groups created in iron, carved ivory, and especially in brass, conventionally called the Benin bronzes, made in Benin are now displayed in museums around the world. Some 3,000 works were removed and for many years stored in secret to perpetuate the myth that no such artwork could have an African provenance. Legacy. The Oba was captured, usually allowed to live in exile until his death in 1914. However, the office of Oba continued to be recognized in colonial Nigeria. Iweka II, 1914 to 1933, built a new palace to replace the one that the British destroyed when they burned the city. Akensewa II, 1933 to 1978, received Elizabeth II of the United Kingdom during her state visit to Nigeria in 1956. In 1966, he became Chancellor of Ahmadu Bello University, Nigeria. The Oba is advised by a traditional council. Both the Oba and the Nigerian government, which has purchased back some items, have requested the return of what they describe as stolen art to Nigeria. List of Obas of the Benin Empire, 1180 present. Pre-imperial Obas of Benin, 1180 to 1440. Iweka, 1180 to 1246. Yugwatawayan, 1256 to 1250. Henmihen, 1250 to 1260. Iwadu, 1260 to 1274. Akala, 1254 to 1287. Edenai, 1287 to 1292. Udakido, 1292 to 1329. Ahen, 1329 to 1366. Ibeka, 1366 to 1397. Orubiru, 1397 to 1434. Uwefyakin, 1434 to 1440. Obas of the Benin Empire, 1440 to 1897. Iawari the Great, 1440 to 1473. Ezedi, 1473 to 1475. Olua, 1475 to 1480. Oslia, 1490 to 1504. Izaki, 1504 to 1547. Orhapula, 1547 to 1580. Ihenbuda, 1580 to 1602. Oalan, 1602 to 1656. Ahenza, 1656 to 1661. Akenza, 1661 to 1669. Ikzengboy, 1669 to 1675. Ikengbe, 1675 to 1684. Ikengbeda, 1684 to 1689. Orogan, 1689 to 1701. Iowa, 1701 to 1712. Usura, 1712 to 1713. Akenswadai, 1713 to 1740. Irizoyan, 1740 to 1750. Utengbuda, 1750 to 1804. Obanosa, 1804 to 1816. Obibo, 1816. Osawan, 1816 to 1848. Adalo, 1848 to 1888. Aboruwan Nakbesi, 1888 to 1914, exiled to Calabar by the British in 1897. Post of Imperial of Benin, 1914 present. Iweka II, 1914 to 1933. Akensewa II, 1933 to 1978. Erenio Y, 1979, present. From HTTP URL. Sales Yoruba people. The Yoruba people, one of the largest ethnic groups in Africa, have survived for centuries on the African continent. Evidence points to a powerful Yoruba kingdom in the 8th century in Ile-Ife. They lived in well-structured urban centers organized around powerful city-states well before the arrival of the British colonizers. With the onset of the slave trade, Yoruba people from Nigeria and Benin were forcibly transported to America as slaves. Their religion expanded across many borders to Trinidad, Cuba, St. Lucia, Benin, Togo, Brazil, Guyana, Haiti, Jamaica, to name a few. The new film could capture one of the largest empires in West Africa kept their traditions alive. Toyotai Adam, the Los Angeles filmmaker and director of the film Bigger Than Africa, traveled to 6 countries to examine contemporary practices of Yoruba culture. He pored over numerous videos and conducted face-to-face interviews with Africans and people of African descent steeped in Yoruba beliefs. Rallying point. The film shows the Yorubas as among the last acts to be captured and sent to the Americas and other places just before the slave trade came to an end. As a result, they were able to retain their culture, which became a rallying point for non-Yoruba freed slaves desperate to connect with their ancestors, Mr. Adakai told Africa Renewal at the screening of the documentary at UN headquarters in New York. They all gravitated toward the Yoruba culture. They became a community, one people in the diaspora. Today, he added, the most pronounced African culture in the diaspora is Yoruba. Mr. Adekai's visit to Oyatachi Village in South Carolina in the United States triggered his interest in the production of Bigger Than Africa. Oyatachi in Yoruba translates to Ppl-making. His film, shot in 6 different countries, Benin, Brazil, Cuba, Nigeria, Trinidad, and Tobago in the United States, and featuring interviews from around the world, follows the journey of these Africans from West Africa to their final destinations. Many Yoruba about the 6 countries he visited, but the greatest manifestation of the Yoruba culture is the language and religious worship of the deities Shango, the Orisha of thunder and lightning, Babalawai, Orisha of the earth, Koka, a violent warrior Orisha, Obatala, creator of human bodies, Orisha of light, Oko, Orisha of agriculture, Ogun, Orisha who presides over fire, hunting, politics, and war, among others. These were common denominators he found in all these countries. Other references of faith can be seen in Trinidad and Tobago, where a belief system known as Trinidad Orisha and its adherents, known as Shango Baptists, can be seen. Yoruba village in Port of Spain is dedicated to Robert Antoine, the pioneer of free Africans who came to Trinidad. In Bahia, Brazil, known as the Yoruba capital of the Americas, the faith in Yoruba deities is over 500 years old. Mr. Adekai, evidence of Yoruba influence in Lemonade, the 6th studio album by American singer Beyoncé, who performed the title piece at the 2017 Grammy Awards ceremony with flowing water around her. She was a depiction of the Yoruba goddess of fertility, beauty, and water, Mr. Adekai said. Beyoncé channeled the beloved Yoruba goddess, known to display human attributes such as vanity and jealousy, corroborates music critic Jenny Avens in a piece for Quartz, the U.S. publication. Another Yoruba deity said to be profiled in a much talked about Disney project called Sonic. It is said to reference the deity Yamaha, although Disney has pitched it as a fairy tale princess. Evolution. Despite brilliance, some aspects of the Yoruba language have signs of foreign influences both at home in western Nigeria, in Benin, and in Yoruba communities in the diaspora, Mr. Adekai acknowledged. The language is not exactly the same. Due to the influence of local dialects, pronunciations of certain words differ country to country. Screenings of Bigger Than Africa, including one at the United Nations headquarters in New York in October, are met with great interest by the audience. It is also accomplishing the producer's objective that it should become a conduit for the African diaspora to connect with Africa.
Yes.
African diaspora making efforts to visit Africa and participate in local festivals. We can help each other, Mr. Adekai said, adding, growing up in Africa, we knew about slavery, but I think our knowledge stops at that point. We do not know what happened after the slave boats docked in the Americas, Cuba, and the Caribbean. We need to fill the gaps. The UN General Assembly proclaimed 2015 to 2024 the International Decade for People of African Descent to recognize and promote the human rights of people of African descent. In 2006, the UN declared March 25th of every year the International Day of Remembrance of the Victims of Slavery and the Transatlantic Slave Trade. The screening took place in the context of those initiatives. Mr. Adekai's message in his documentary aligns with that of the UN. Our goal is to foster unity, promote human rights, and highlight the work of people of African descent. More projects are in the line, he hinted. There is a lot to document and highlight. HTTP URL. Yoruba language. Yoruba is a tongue spoken natively by about 30 million people in Nigeria and in the neighboring countries of the Republic of Benin and Togo. In Nigeria, Yoruba speakers reside in the southwest region in states such as Oyo, Ogun, Osun, Ondo, Ikiti, Lagos, Kaji, and Kwara states. Yoruba is a core language, which belongs to the Yoruboid group under the Niger-Congo phylum. It has 3 basic but significant tones. One of the effects of the large number of Yoruba speakers and their geographic spread is the emergence of geography-bound linguistic variations. Yoruba is a dialect continuum including several distinct dialects. Bambos, 1966. Estimates of the total number of Yoruba dialects vary from 12 to 26. Oho, 1977. Adajubo, 1982. Oyalaran, 1970. 1992. Mustafa, 1987. Oho, 2001. The differences in dialects are marked in the areas of pronunciation, grammatical structure, and vocabulary. There are other dialects found all over West Africa. In the Republic of Benin, Yoruba dialects include Ketu, Nego, Ich, Ajace, Idaitsa, Sabi, while Nana and Inza are 2 of the dialects found in Togo. Some Yoruba dialects are also found in the African diaspora, especially the Caribbean. The dialect of Yoruba used in Brazil is called Nego, while the one used in Cuba is referred to as Lukumi. It is however possible to classify Yoruba dialectal forms, found in Nigeria, into 5 regional groupings: Northwest Yoruba, NW1, Northeastern Yoruba, Ni, Central Yoruba, Sai, Southwest Yoruba, SW1, Southeast Yoruba, Say. Phonological, lexical, and grammatical variations are the hallmarks of these groupings since there are variant degrees of mutual intelligibility among the geographic dialects found in each group. A consensus standard form has however evolved and is recognized as the form for writing and teaching the language. This form, relatively close to the SW1, is understood by speakers of all the different dialects and it continues to serve the communicative purpose of all speakers. In the 1960s to the 1970s, various orthography committees were set up by both government and academic groups to consider and subsequently review the standard orthography for the language. Significant reviews were done based on the report of the Orthography Committee in 1966. It is primarily the basis for the creation and introduction into schools of the standard Yoruba orthography and hence for the standard Yoruba language. The standard form of Yoruba is the type of Yoruba learned in school and spoken or written, mostly by educated native speakers to addressees who speak different dialects. Bambos, 1966. The language is one of the three national languages in Nigeria. It is an to the socio-political importance and sheer number of its speakers. This has translated into socio-linguistic developments for the language in terms of its study and usage in the country. As with many other African languages, the earliest study of the Yoruba language was done by missionaries interested in translating the scriptures for evangelical purposes. The peculiar outcome of these efforts, coupled with the abolition of slavery, was the emergence of the writing and studying of the Yoruba language and culture among settled free slaves in Sierra Leone. Known as Aku, these Yoruba people did pioneering work on the writing and studying of the language, such that Yoruba became one of the first West African languages to have a written grammar and dictionary in 1849. Since then, work has continued in and on the language until today. There are many grammars, dictionaries, and literary texts in the language today.
Thank you all for enjoying, well, sticking around to this point. And again, the narrative should be in unison. Of course, there are going to be different parts where people, kind of branch off, you know what I'm saying? But the general narrative should be consistent, concise, and, you know, generally accepted, I believe. But that's neither here nor there. What I surmised from, some of this research here is that I do not blame the Dahomey tribe and the Benin or Edo people from removing themselves from potentially a ruler of the Oyo Empire that may have not had all his number six together. Up until that point, to even think that any deal that is, striked with Awan Pupa would 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 even be okay at all. The person Oba told my why in place at that time, or we told or we at fall gone because I don't blame Awan Benin Awan Edo from Kuro B by or your Central. Period. I'm not mad that they left. How can you be sending your people and the people that say okay that they're going to listen to you, you're sending them over to meet their death in another land where they're going to stamp them like animals and things of that nature. Yeah, the Dahomey intuitively knew y'all off y'all rockers, y'all got us fucked up, and we're not going for that, no matter how much the deal is or how much money or how much greed that has now been introduced to this culture. We're not going for it because that's not of our original people. So we need to understand what occurred that, or the people that were in charge during the time that, the transatlantic deals were being reached and why they were why they would betray their people like that. Even if they didn't think it was betrayal, maybe they painted a beautiful picture. But no, you should still want to keep your people together solid as a whole. Why are you why are you trading them for things that you never even had before or needed in the first place? You know what I'm saying? So you have to look at why was that introduced to our people in the first place? And missionaries might ask, whatever. Those are people that are trying to figure out your melanin, your DNA, your codes, so they can flip it and reverse it. And that's what happened. And that's where we're at today. But please impart and input, what you know of that time because we kind of want to get everything out in the open. We can't be afraid to speak and be afraid to ask the necessary questions of our history and our culture because if we don't, how can we impart the knowledge into the younger generation? Exactly. Stop being scared, okay? And talk to your community, talk to your people. Let's have a solid understanding of where we come from, period. Because if you don't, someone else will. And those someone else's may be the same people that did the most just atrocious things to your people and your ancestors. And you want to you want to not have the conversations that will help your future generations strengthen themselves. To me, that's ridiculous. To me, that's stupid. And to me, that's it's a big liability. Okay, so let's not do that. Me, I don't mind speaking out against my own people if they're doing some bull. You see what I'm saying? If they're doing some bullshit, you see what I'm saying? So you want to be on the right side of history, regardless if the people that are in leadership are on the right side of history or not. You sometimes have to make the decision and have some self-respect, like the Dahomey tribe of Benin, of Edo. Let's call them Edo because that is their name. Benin is what the Portuguese called them. But who knows? Correct me if I'm wrong. That's the point of this, is to have discussions. Not everyone knows everything. Please understand, no one knows everything. Everyone has their specialty and expertise. And that's why you should never be jealous of another person, especially of another woman. But that's a whole nother topic when I'm not talking about the spirituality and oneness. When I'm talking about um, getting your bag, leveling up, and being your best version of you and surviving the patriarchy as a woman, that's a whole nother topic. That's a whole nother mind frame. That's a whole nother hat you have to put on. So for this topic, we're talking in general as far as men and women, okay? And yeah. So please let me know if you enjoyed it. Comment below any corrections you might want to make and things of that nature. Let's get it as accurate as possible because if we can at least be on one accord, then it's better when you want to engage or discuss or whatever with a different type of people. You understand? As long as you know what your narrative is, the proper narrative as close as possible, no one else can shake that solid oneness, okay? So let's try to get as close to that as possible, okay? All right. Anyways, thank you guys for joining me. I hope you appreciate any of this. And yeah, I think these are the type of things that need to happen and conversations that need to be had. And you can't shy away from it. You can't be a scared bitch. You know what I'm saying? You have to just have these conversations. And yeah. But anyways, I think I've gone over the time I wanted to. There was other stuff I wanted to share with you all. Let me just see. Let's see. Hmm. Okay, let's play this. I don't know if it's playing. It's playing. I don't know. Well, anyways, I guess I share that with you guys at another time, but I thought it would be very interesting to know. So, right. Until next time, bye. And I appreciate you joining me, being patient with me in my journey. I am leveling up and things that nature. It's fun. My internet. You see what I'm saying? It's my internet. But anyways, it's called Kingdom Benin Full History. And there's Kingdom of y'all. And then there's a history prior to all of that. Even prior to all of that. And even prior to all of that, ancient Egyptian, ancient Kemet, all of that. But let me go ahead and let guys go now. Because my internet and actually affects the audio. So it starts going buzzy buzz like it just in and out. I'm so animated. Yes. Okay. Period. But yeah, thank you guys for joining me. And till next time, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you learned anything and if you can contribute anything to the knowledge. Otherwise, shut down. Oh no, no. We gotta go. The internet disability for me. Till next